What's up, everyone? Today I'm gonna talk about why I don't usually use the function keyword and why I think you shouldn't as well. Why preferring arrow functions. So, firstly, I must say that this is personal, so it's okay if you disagree with me, but I'm gonna try to give you how I convinced myself to stop using function, and maybe it will give you some insights. So, first of all, there are I would say mainly through three ways of declaring functions in JavaScript. The first one is function declaration, which is just like that. The second one would be using a function expression with arrow functions. And there is a third one that you can also assign a function as a function expression. Right now, let me just go with those two. Declaration versus functions expressions. So what I really hate about function declaration is the property called hoisting. If you don't know what hoisting is, it's the ability to access a variable before it was defined. That for me is just magic. It makes no sense. You shouldn't be able to access stuff before they are declared. And if you are debugging a code or simply trying to understand a file, if you see something, the intuitive thing to do is to go over and try to find where are you importing from or where you're declaring. When you use function, when you leverage hoisting, I think it gets messed up. So I don't think that should exist. But you could do it like that. Do function, declare it as an expression, and it would fix the value. It would fix that property. You wouldn't use hoisting. That's true. But before we get a little further, I like to have patterns in my code, and I don't think most of the codes should be mixing between function and arrow function because, first of all, it's a pattern. So if you are about to contribute to a repository that is not yours, you should see how people are coding in other places. They should try to enforce it with ESLint, for example. But in here, I need to pick one. So that's my first argument on why function is worse. The second thing is that functions create scope for this, like the word this, and it's very rare that I need to use that. If we want to use this, we usually want to have a class constructor. So like a class, this class. And yeah, then we access the this. We can say that this is person and that this dot name is whatever, Batman. So when we instantiate person as a new person, we have access to person dot name. That's the second thing, creating the scope, because I think it breaks a little the intuitiveness of the this value. For example, if I had introduce, so here it's saying I am this dot name. If I call person dot introduce, then we are getting I'm Batman. But what if I remove this method from here? Example, I have a function that does something and it expects a method here, whatever, and it calls the method. So if I call does something passing person dot introduced, then cannot read properties of undefined, read name. So this is coming as undefined. Why is that? If I can give a second example, you'll understand. Let's say I have an object here, random object, that has some properties, like, I don't know, color yellow, and it will have the introduce method as person.introduce. Then if I call random object.introduce, where's, oh, here, I am undefined. So this is now an object but doesn't have the undefined. If I add a name to this one, like random, then we'll log I am random, even though this name is Batman. How come? That's because when you use a function syntax, it doesn't have a very intuitive scope for this, as it create this scope. So there are a couple ways of fixing that. We could use the bind method, but what I'm gonna use here is simply replacing that for arrow function, and now it works as I'm Batman, no matter where I use it. So that's the second reason I don't like function, the stupid scope for this. Just as In extra, I also prefer the syntax of arrow functions. I understand if you disagree, but for example, if we have, I don't know, sum is equals to AB returning A plus B, that's so obvious. It's like input, output. You get the input and an arrow pointing to the output. And that's it. So I prefer avoiding functions because if they're not used as function expressions to create hoisting, they screw up the scope of this. Usually, when you want the scope of this to work, you actually want a class. That's a ES6 syntax. It looks better for you to create constructors, and it's more beautiful. I hope you liked this video. I hope it affects in any way the way you code or at least how you think, because you might still prefer using the function keyword for some reason. Oh, it's more similar to how other languages declare functions, and that's fine by me. Please comment here if you use function or arrow function and if you change your mind at all about this topic.